It is the most versatile aircraft in the Navy and Marine Corps arsenal. Combining the speed and agility of a fighter with the power of a light bomber, the FA-18 is a lethal weapon, a marvel of modern aircraft design. It's every pilot's dream to fly one, but to reach these elite ranks, trainees must pass a series of rigorous tests. From the training field to the carrier deck, the FA-18 has seized center stage as the world's elite strike fighter, the backbone of carrier-based aviation.
Thanks for 3-1, Josh. Approach Charlie, down 2-3, Code 3-1, go.
Every day in the skies over hostile territory, squadrons of FA-18s are on the prowl. This is the front line where the FA-18 excels. Striking targets in support of troops on the ground and tracking the horizon for enemy fighters. These jets project power from thousands of feet in the air. And their reach extends to almost anywhere on the planet, because their home base is no ordinary airstrip. For the FA-18, home base is a floating runway churning the waters miles offshore. This is one of the United States' 12 aircraft carriers, a fully functional airport at sea. Even after striking targets and risking the threat of enemy fire, these FA-18 pilots can't rest until they bring their aircraft safely to a stop on board. A carrier air wing is made up of more than just fighter jets. Each of the 80-plus planes on board carries out a specific task. S-3 Vikings for refueling and sub-hunting. E-2C Hawkeyes for reconnaissance. EA-6B Prowlers for jamming enemy electronics. And HH-60 Seahawk helicopters for shuttling people and materials. All these aircraft and the carrier itself are focused on one objective: forward force projection. And the one plane best suited for that role is the FA-18. The FA-18 Hornet is a $38 million high-tech machine. It's the smallest plane on the carrier, just 56 feet long and 15 feet tall with a 40-foot wingspan. Its streamlined design is characterized by a long, narrow fuselage and side-by-side powerful twin engines. At 21,000 pounds, it weighs half as much as many other fighter jets, with an advanced composite airframe of aluminum, titanium, and steel. To fly one of these jets is to join the ranks of just over 1,000 active Navy and Marine Corps Hornet aviators. The journey to become a carrier-qualified FA-18 pilot begins thousands of miles away from hostile territory in the peaceful farmland of Central California. Naval Air Station Lemoore is the Navy's newest and largest master jet air station. The flat terrain and lack of neighbors makes Lemoore a perfect spot. Here, aviators who have passed their basic flight training learn how to fly the FA-18. It's a mentally and physically challenging program. The newest class of trainees will undergo 300 hours of classwork and at least 300 hours more in simulators and training aircraft before they can even step into the cockpit of an FA-18 jet. Lemoore's Flying Eagles of VFA 122 are among the best in the Navy when it comes to training elite aviators, preparing them for battle.
A fleet replacement squadron trains the frontline pilots. That's what we do. The folks that we get into VFA 122 have never flown anything tactical, but when they leave here, they go right to a frontline fleet squadron.
To forge elite pilots out of raw aviators, trainers here push their students harder than most other squadrons.
We have roughly 100 students of some type in training at any one time here. We're flying probably more than we expected to, certainly more than anybody else expected us to the tune of 18,000 hours last year alone, where another squadron with a similar mission like this one typically would fly 12 to 13, maybe 15,000 flight hours. To put that in perspective, a fleet squadron on a very good year might fly 5,000 hours.
Since the delivery of the first FA-18s in 1980, Lemoore has been known as the home of the Hornet. Nearly 365 days a year, from the early morning on, the skies over Lemoore echo with the deafening roar of FA-18 jet fighters. The FA-18 that these trainees hope to fly is a much more sophisticated machine than earlier Navy jets. During the 1960s and 70s, the Navy was launching two formidable workhorses from its aircraft carriers. The F-4 Phantom was a reliable, fast, powerful fighter designed for air-to-air combat. Capable of reaching speeds of almost 1,500 miles per hour, it could carry a deadly array of weapons. The A-7 Corsair was a slower armored jet, a lethal light bomber that could deliver a 15,000-pound payload. Combined, the two planes flew hundreds of thousands of combat sorties in military operations all over the world. But by the mid-1970s, the F-4 and A-7 were aging and nearing the end of their useful lives. The Navy needed newer, higher-tech aircraft, able to handle the demands of modern warfare. The Navy conceived of the FA-18 in order to replace both the F-4 and A-7 in one combined strike fighter design, and thereby free valuable space on its aircraft carriers. As a result, the FA-18 is the first jet designated both F for fighter and A for attack. The deployment of a multi-role strike fighter had been a long-time goal for the Navy, and the FA-18 has fulfilled that goal and more. While past planes like the F-4 could be configured as either